around the planet is due to the fact that we have a dominant beast-like civilization. And the dominant beast-like civilization has no mercy, has no consciousness, has no feeling. And you just study the colonial powers when they moved out of Europe, where they were confined for a while until Moses was raised to go and teach them what? Civilization. Right now, today, if you don't believe what we're saying, just think about the experimentations that the dominant world of the white race has experimented on this planet during these last 6,000 years. When he was in the caves and hillsides of Europe, he was wild. He has that history. You can go to the Museum of Natural History in Chicago. Go down below, where they want to hide it down below. Go down and see them. And they look like Caucasians in the caves eating raw meat, just learning how to make a fire. Yes? And so what happened is that during that period, is the word correct? They cohorted with animals. And right now, in this society, you will find that they are so poorly equipped for civilization that they experiment with animals. They mate with dogs, horses, mules. Am I right? Yes, and then sometimes these babies are born in hospitals that have tails. Predominantly out of that kind of mind of a beast. Now, in your mind, in our mind, as the original people, indigenous people of the earth, you hardly hear of any such experimentation. Am I right? I mean, if you know it, share it with me. But for the main, it's generally a filthy side of this beast-like civilization that has entrapped us to try to imitate a beast-like lifestyle. So if we are guilty of any of the vices that may be practiced among us, the root of it is in the races that were created or brought about by one of our scientists, brother. Sorry, the messenger of Allah said, respect and honor all people, all races, all religious creeds, irrespective. And he said, why? Because we would be the example of the non-racist people, the non-classist people, to bring about a return to a higher civilization. And we will be responsible to teach all races, all religious people. So we cannot discriminate against people because of their religion or their race. But what we were taught is the science of how all these races came to be, how all of these civilizations came to be. Then we have to master the nature in which everything has been created, from the animal world to the insect world, to the human world, to the planetary world. Every single world we must master. So we can't just say, as we used in the language before that just startled people so, the white man is the devil. He is the skunk of the planet Earth. Why? Because we were the people that had been so deceived that we had to have a hard message and a hard teaching and a hard medicine that the master had to give us so that we would become fully knowledgeable about everything in the world. So the parable of Jesus, where he says we hid it from the wise and gave it to the foolish. So when you conflict with their world and their thinking and their mind, they know immediately that you have been given a higher base of knowledge. to refute their world of unrighteousness and wickedness. So we become the target now in the studies of the United States government and governments around the world, because we have fully come into a knowledge that removes the veil off of their wicked world. So never be fearful of what you hear from the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, his greatest helper. He was to help the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in expanding from a local or national view to an international and universal view, and show you how these same teachings fit, but using the language properly, we will be able to nurture and bring all of humanity back to where they belong and where we belong. That image keeps coming to me that we discussed yesterday, brothers and sisters, of Yakub playing with 2 pieces of steel. And his playing with 2 pieces of steel means that at the beginning, he had a magnetic attraction that attracted the piece that did not have that electric magnetic in it. See? Now, if we're talking about the type of characteristics that people have and races have today, we will know that he moves very quickly like a flash of light, and he is attracting our attention. But he's attracting us to the worst side of his nature and not to the scientific side of his nature. He keeps the scientific side a secret, as we have discovered in his military aggressiveness. He moves quickly to make objects and weapons more dangerous by using steel. And at the exhibit hall there at the museum, we could see how they moved from wooden machines to even what we call it, those big blips that we used to see. Like it looks like a missile or a gun. I've never seen them lately. I think they've been taken out of service. But we saw the progression. All war, all fighting and killing, dropping bombs. 1903, the Wright brothers' objective was to build a fighter plane, a destroyer plane. Then we go into World War I, and you see the progression of the technology, and you start moving from wood into plastic. No, I'm not serious. We wish. But they moved into greater and greater airplanes made out of steel. Now today, and they make these steel bombs to drop to destroy indigenous people. They experiment out in the South Pacific, on the Marshall Islands, the Solomon Islands, Papua New Guinea, and any place where they can experiment, knowing that through their experimentation, radiation is going to affect the indigenous people on those islands, destroy them, set up radiation producing cancer. Everywhere they go, they brought destruction on the planet, and yet we cannot see that. We are so in love with the Master because he's feeding us the garbage, the worst of food. Nothing to make us progressive. And the system today is to lock us down. They have, as the Honorable Minister Farrakhan said, their core of the military, that at a certain point, when you declare martial law, you lose your constitutional rights. And you think you own something, but it can be taken from you through stealth. And they have a stealth bomber